Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner. In this video I'm going to be doing a report slash deck profile on what I played at the regionals this past weekend. As you guys already know at this point, I played Kozmo. I ended up borrowing the entire deck off a friend, and the only card actually I have left over from that I actually own is his Dark Lady that I'm selling to a friend. So I basically rented a deck to try and get my top because I really wanted to get that playmat. And none of the decks I had on hand would be able to succeed in the field of what I thought was going to be Kozmo, Monarch, and Card of Demise deck. And that's what I was expecting to see. Turns out I was more or less right. Kozmo was the most played deck, followed by Monarch, some B variants. There was a lot of Mermail too. So I made the correct read in that the only other deck I actually have on hand at this point is Odd Eye Zephyr Yangzing, and I just didn't feel like I could figure out a build that could reliably beat the other decks, as that deck wants to go second in order to get the extra card to combo and kill. But if Monarchs and Kozmo go first, then they can set up Dark Lady here, which kind of just ruins your Jiao2 play, and Aetherstone Fourth kind of also just ruins your play. So I just decided not to play that. Go with this. I ended up going X1-1, no X2-1 actually. Lost the last round, so I ended up bubbling and not getting the top, and we'll get to that in a bit. So first off, I'll show you guys a snapshot of the deck list I ran, and quickly explain a couple of things about it. So let's just see that.
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
Alright, so now if you've had a look at my list, I'm sure you've noticed a couple things. First off, I'm running 2 Forerunners and only 1 Dark Lady. So the 2 Forerunners was that I wanted to have more level 6 and higher ships to be able to pop for Fire King Island, as I really didn't want to pop my 5s unless I had no alternative. And Forerunner, the second one, is something that a lot of people still don't see coming, which is especially prevalent in the mirror match, where you eventually have to bump Dark Destroyer into Dark Destroyer. At that point, a Forerunner is likely in the graveyard off of a Tin Can search, and if they're only running the 1 Forerunner and you summon your second one, that puts you ahead of them because you happen to have a bigger ship that you can float down to that they also cannot touch if they bring out the likes of Landwalker, Sliprider, and such forth. In addition to that, because you're paying so much life for this deck, I liked the option of having another means of getting back life. And as far as the Dark Lady goes, I felt that at 1 copy, I could pull it out of the deck or dump it and bring it back off of Sword Troopers if I really needed to see it. Whereas if I ran 2, chances are I would draw 1, and I never really want to have Dark Lady in my hand. So I felt like the 1-of was okay. I could see myself bumping up to 2 if I ever play this deck again. Spoiler alert, probably not. Because we'll get to that in a bit actually. I ran 2 Delta Shuttles. I hated that number. I would definitely cut 1 and go with the 3rd Sliprider again in a heartbeat. I felt like the 1-off copy was good enough. 2 of the other pilots, because you never really want to see them in your hand. You want to pull them on the deck off of Fire King Island plays. 3 Maxi, because I think the card is the literal nuts this format. I ran 2 Fire Kings, but 1 3 and 1 4, as I wanted the 4 to be able to do rank 4 plays with. In addition, the 4 is really helpful against Card of Demise matchups, as at least against Klee, you can ram it into a ship. He'll die. He'll pop a big ship in your he'll pop a big ship into your hand, and you can bring out Sliprunner and pop their back row, and they can't respond to it into damage step short of Solemn Strike. And if they strike it, then you can still banish him, summon something else. And likewise, I also ran the Dark Lady, the Wicked Witch, because she's really good against the Card of Demise matchups, which there were again a fair amount of them there. Let's see, I ran 4 field spells. I do believe that is the correct number. It's just my ratio was off. I never wanted to have a second copy of Fire King Island, so I'll probably bump that up to 3 town, 1 island. The other spells were okay. And as far as the traps, I liked my number. I liked the main deck Magical Deflector. I thought it was a smart meta call, given the fact that I would be seeing so many Monarchs and Mirror matches, and even some Rogue decks. The card's pretty strong against. And yeah, I would probably continue to run 2 of these in just about everything I play at this point for, because my locals is going to be consisting entirely of Kozmo and Monarch. So there you go. The extra deck, I ran the monsters that I felt I needed to run. You may notice a lack of Volcasaurus, Pleiades, and Gaia Charger, and that's because I found myself almost never going into them. Anytime I could go into rank 5, which almost every time it was done, it was through 2 ships. I would always go into Infinity because it was just better. So, yeah, I ran on one of Shark Fortress because I couldn't think of anything else to run in the slot. In retrospect, it should have been an Acid Golem, as I found I lost 2 games because my opponent dropped Majesty's Fiend, and I had a 3 and an E-Tail in hand, but I couldn't, like, do anything. And that card is irritating as hell to answer. My sideboard is just generic stuff. And as far as like Reaper, before I actually go into the sideboard, I also have to mention that in my extra deck I ran rank 4s. So not only that I could make them off of Yaksha and Wicked Witch, but I could also use them as Reaper targets, but not dedicate cards in my side deck for things like Dante in the BA matchup or Abyss Dweller versus Mermail, which there were a predominant number of them there. Instead, I ran them in my extra deck so that I could not only use them, but also use them against, Reaper them out. Yeah, so that's that. Now, as far as the tournament itself goes, it was 7 rounds, 79 people, fairly decent number of quality players there. So if I were to get a top, I'd have to fight through some good players in order to get there. Let's see. So for the first round, I played against Despots. That was an easy 2-0, as it was his first time playing in a regional, so he was nervous. In addition, Despots are awful. I'm sorry, Despot players, but no, that's just my opinion of it. Especially if you're able to make Dark Lady on the board and make it stick, as she can negate the Despot that summons something from the deck or searches, or I forget. She can negate the guy that summons things, and she can negate the guy that answers your ships, which is one of the things it can do. So, if you can keep Dark Lady safe against Despots, I think you can win short of them having a really bonkers Pendulum Summon play. So, that was a quick 2-0 on my part. Then I played against the Kozmo Mirror match, and I 2-0'd him decently quickly, as game 1, he didn't see Kozmo Town, and I did, and I was able to just get so much further ahead of him. He also was not running the second Forerunner, and as I mentioned before, the second Forerunner is really good for the Mirror. Game 2, he opened with a Pilot into Dark Lady set 3 pass, one of those being a Vanity's Emptiness to my hand of almost all monsters, and Regeki. So I'm like, well, okay, Regeki summoned, I summoned Dark Lady first. No, not Dark Lady. I summoned Wicked Witch first to see if he had a warning or a Chaos Trap hole to try and force out the Emptiness that way. He didn't, so I just played Regeki, cleared his board, and started swinging with that. And then it just kind of snowballed from there because I was able to start seeing Kozmo Town and stuff. So he didn't draw well both games, and I drew well both games. That's kind of how the mirror match is, in my opinion. And then round 3, I played against Yo Boo Boo, which was a matchup that I already hate, despite playing it only just a few times. Like, I hate decks like that, where it's like you set up set 5, all the being floodgates to prevent you from doing stuff. I'm like, no, I just want to actually play the game, which is. Yeah. But anyway, so he goes. I win the die roll because I know he's playing Yo Boo Boo. One of my friend playing Mermail just told me who he was off the description. Like, okay, I know this guy's playing that deck, so I need to set up I need to play accordingly, and I do. He's able to resolve Demise and flip up a Floodgate or two a couple times, but I answer them and I take game 1. Game 2, he does not see card Demise, and when Yosenju doesn't see that card, the deck just kind of falls apart because they can't deal with a deck like Kozmo that's generating so much more advantage than them. He does have Macro and then eventually Iron Wall, but I'm able to work around them. Did he have Macro and Iron Wall up at the same time? No, he didn't do that. But like, he had Macro, but I had Town, so it was fine. He had Iron Wall up at one point, but I answered that. And I just eventually clear his back row, make Infinity, and he's top decking, so he loses. Then the next round, I'm up against Yo Boo Boo again. I get deck checked, and because I didn't shuffle my deck well enough or whatever, I end up bricking game 1. I end up scooping so he doesn't see what I'm playing, and then game 2 gets silly. So I know I'm up against Yo Boo Boo, so I go first. I see Pilot into Dogfighter, which is a card I ran specifically for the Yo Boo Boo matchup, as the tokens are very difficult for them to answer. They can't drowning them. If they storming or whatever mirroring force them, that's fine. You can just make another token, keep swinging. It's also bigger than any Cleavefort monster short of Sacrifice or Skill Drain. So I stick that guy out. I make my token. He sets a monster, which I believe is a Fossil Xana, so I don't attack it. Turns out it wasn't. It was a set comma, so he summons another comma, bounces my token, and then creature swaps my Dogfighter. I'm like, oh, that happens. He swings at me with the one Yosenju guy, bounces his monsters back, and makes a token during my turn. I'm like, well, I guess I'll just go into Forerunner and hope to God it sticks there. It sticks. He doesn't have a strike or a Chaos Trap hole for my pilot. So I'm good on that part. He doesn't have Iron Wall up immediately either, whereas I have Anti-Spell. So he has to like set cards before he can do stuff. I also think I had Magical Effect at some point. All I know is like, so I don't know is I passed my turn with a Forerunner play. On his turn, he makes another token. I'm like, if he summons one more token, I might actually be able to win this one just by going into time. He summons 2 Yosenju, tries to bounce my guy. He can't, so he just passes. So that tells me he has no ways of dealing with my Forerunner. And so on my turn, I gain life, and he makes another token. So now his field is Dogfighter, 3 tokens, and only 1 monster slot. I'm like, I am fine with this. As I summon Dark Lady at some point. Yeah, all I know is like at this point, I'm like, alright, new win con. Don't attack a token, gain life, and make certain he can't win in time through life. So that's what I do. On his turn, he realizes he's made too many tokens. He doesn't make another one, but he only has 1 monster card zone. So he just summons a Yosenju and passes. He doesn't do anything. Then on my turn, I gain life. He doesn't generate a token. I summon Dark Lady at this point, but I don't do anything. I don't beat over his token, so I pass. And he realizes I'm not going to beat his tokens over. I'm going to leave him with his completely clogged board and try and win the game through life gaining and in time. So he ends up throwing a token at my Dark Lady, which is fine. He then summons the Yosenju, I negate and kill it. He lets it go through, so that tells me he doesn't have secret move. So I'm like, awesome. His back row is locked out, so he can't set any secret moves. I know he's got forces back there for days, so I'm not going to clear his board. I'm just going to wait until I'm eventually able to make a kill play and get there. And that kill play ultimately comes in me drawing a Yaksha, setting it, knowing that he's not going to attack it because I can just negate his Yosenju. And then on the next turn, I draw my Dark Lady, a Wicked Witch. All I know is I end up getting a Wicked Witch through mulligans and such. I summon it. He doesn't have a strike or anything, so I go into Utopia. He can't answer it. I go into Lightning. He can't answer it. And I'm like, all right, we're just going to beat face with Lightning until he's dead. So I beat over his tokens, don't attack directly. He tries to do a Yosenju play on his turn. I kill it with Dark Lady. Come my turn, I gain life. And I swing with Utopia Pass, and he realizes at that point I'm not going to attack with any of my other monsters. I'm just going to keep swinging for 2,500 until he's dead, and he scoops, showing me his back row of multiple mirror forces and a set system down that he couldn't use because his Iron Wall was up. So I win that game, and we end up ending with a draw. That's fine. Next round, I'm up against Monarchs. In game 1, Majesty's Fiend, and no answer for it. So, well, okay. And then game 2, I flip Anti-Spell Fragments. He has to set cards. I end up using Dark Destroyer to pop his monster, and then I have Kozmo to pop one of his back row, and then I summon Slip Rider out of the deck and pop his other back row, and then on my turn, I just go off and kill him. And game 3, he opens with an Erebus, and he hits my E-Telly, which I needed him to not do, because that was my only way of playing around his Aether Stormforth. So I end up having to force out of his Aether Stormforth. I had no follow-up. I'm like, crap. Okay, so as long as he doesn't summon a third Erebus, another Erebus or something, I'm good. And no, he just goes off and OTKs me the following turn because I have no board. So that made me sad. Next round, I'm up against Monarchs again. And game 1, he opens with Majesty's Fiend. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. Game 2. Game 2, he opens with all of his Brilliant Fusions. And I think his Garnet, because he didn't play it at all. So he straight up bricked, and I didn't, so I killed him. I also had Magical Deflector for Stormforth. Yeah, so he couldn't Stormforth me. And in game 3, he bricked again with multiple Brilliant Fusions. I think his Garnet. So I ended up having to pass. Whereas I opened with Master Restrict plus ships in plays. So, yeah, I ended up killing him quickly. And the last round was up against Fluffles. Was it against Fluffles? Yeah, that had to be round. Oh, no, yeah, I ended up playing Fluffles in my last round. Game 1, I bricked terribly. Like, I'm talking both of my Fire King Islands, Kozmo Town, and like Ship and Call to Haunted. So I had nothing, and he just had stuff. So I ended up just scooping, so he didn't see what I was playing going to game 2. Game 2, I forget how I opened. I just know I opened with a ship or something. I ended up opening with Magical Deflector as well, which was like, I guess I can use it to make, whatchamacallit. Toy Factory do not do anything for turn, but anyway, so I open with a Kozmo board. he can't out it immediately, so I'm like, awesome. I can just like keep getting pot shots in and eventually go for a push and kill him. I eventually do make my big push play as I drew a Fire King Island, and I'm like, and I have a Dark Destroyer in play. I'm like, I can kill him. So I get rid of my Kozmo Talon, Fire King Island, pop my Dark Destroyer, and start doing things. And he doesn't have a max C. I'm like, awesome. I pay myself down a considerably low amount of life, but in doing so, I'm able to pretty much have a game board. And I go into Shark Fortress specifically because I feel I wouldn't be able to OTK him through his 2 monsters and a Dark Destroyer and something else on the board. And I get super excited because, alright, I have this, I've got this. And then I immediately move into battle phase, forgetting to use Shark Fortress's effect to attack twice. I'm like, shit. So I end up having to attack with all my monsters, and I leave him at 300 life. I pass my turn with a... I forget what I have set. No, I have nothing. I have no back row. So I pass my turn, fetch a Dark Lady off the pop ship. I'm like, okay, I should still be good as his Fight for Tiger, or the one that like nukes everything. I can Dark Lady, or no, I end up having a Dark Lady. All I know is I end up having a like I figured I was fine going into his turn, and he starts doing his stuff. He's trying to force out my Dark Lady. I don't do so because I know if I negate any of his other fusion monsters, he'll just summon Fight for Tiger and blow up my field, and I'll feel sad. But he has Dark Hole, so he blows up my field, summons 3 big fusion monsters at like 4,000 attack each. I float down a Forerunner, and I'm able to survive his attacks and end his turn on a Tin Can, but the Tin Can research doesn't get me anything good. I draw into a useless field, a terraforming for turn. I'm like, well, that's it, I'm dead. So I scoop it up and feel really awful about myself because I basically had punted a game that I had no business losing and potentially going on to a game 3 where I probably could have beaten him, because I don't think Fluffles have a very good turn 1 play outside of trying to dig deeper into their deck with Toy Factory and setting Iron Wall, hope it gets in there. And I think going second, I could have potentially killed him, or at the very least said get Anti-Spell Fragments and preventing him from doing much of anything. Like, I felt like if I'd been able to go into a game 3, I could have won it. But unfortunately, I punted it harder. And I'm like, oh my god, just... I'm still actually tilted off of that. Because, like, I pretty much threw away a chance to top. And I know this, and it's gonna be bugging me for the foreseeable future. Like, I'm not as upset over this as I could be. Like, there were no salty tears shed, probably because I was just so disappointed at myself. Like, it's still a pretty tough pill to swallow, having that opportunity just squandered. So, yeah, that happens. So, I ended up finishing 17th, which is still higher than everyone else from Regina and Saskatchewan who came, which is okay, I guess. I mean, it was a considerable step up from my last 2 regionals appearances where I finished in the low 40s because of just not being my day. And this just means, like, maybe next time I actually will get the top, and when I'm playing a deck that I'm more comfortable with. Like, I mean, Cosmos ran well enough for me. I would definitely make changes to the deck list if I were to play it again. I would cut the Delta Shuttle down to 1 copy, up Slip Rider up to 2, maybe drop the main deck Magical Deflectors for another something else. Like, looking at the build that got first place, I would definitely take some cues from that and play it. I would actually maybe even play his list moving forward, but I'm not, because this is the only card I have left for Kozmo. I don't really want to play the deck again anytime soon. For the time being, I'm probably just going to mess around with some silly deck set locals for the sake of it being locals. I have no nationals to really care about at this point, so I was like, whatever, I'll just screw around. And I'll wait for the movie pack to come out, and hopefully this deck will be playable in its 100% glory. Once that happens, then I'll actually give a damn about this game. But for the time being, I don't particularly care for Yu-Gi-Oh! At the moment, so I'm just going to be playing it for the lulz. And as for what you can expect on the channel for the future, I'll probably do a deck profile of the Yang Zing deck that I considered playing at this, but ultimately didn't because I just didn't like its chances in the field. But otherwise, I think it's still a very solid version of Odd Eyes Zephyr Yang Zing. So there's that. And then after that, we're going to be going back to Carved Vanguard content because at this moment, I prefer that game far more than this one. And so you'll be seeing things like Fighters Collection deck profiles and I'll try and get some games. Card Fight area finally updated with the 16 card extra deck, so I can actually play test with G Guardians, and we'll just take it from there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this rather lengthy video. I apologize for the fact that it's going to be 20 plus minutes, but you guys know me, I'm a stickler for the details. So hope you all enjoyed this. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, this is Boost 9, jacking out.